49ers Ultimate Report. This is John Jay, your 49ers reporter, opinionist, analyst, and die-hard fan. Welcome to an episode of the 49ers Ultimate Report. This guy right here is John Jay. And before we jump into the episode, I want to give a major shout out to all of you, those who watch this channel, support this channel, and do way beyond more to help this channel grow. I want to say thank you. And in 2022, this year we have some great things going on this channel. So I want to say thank you very much. Welcome to the third day of Cowboys and 49ers week, nonstop Cowboys and 49ers week. It feels like a Super Bowl for us because this is probably an important week for us if we want to extend our season. So that's why I think about it like a Super Bowl week. But if we continue to win, we'll have another week of football to talk about. Yesterday, I want to say thank you to my boy Niners Sickness, an OG of the 49ers. He knows so many great things about this rivalry. So thank you very much, Niners Sickness, for hopping on. But I want to say hello to a new member of the 49ers community. I found his channel about a month ago. I've been watching this great content. Let me give you a quick introduction. This guy does 49er content videos. Let's bring him in. Let's say hello to Shifty, 49er Talk. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, man. Thank you so much for having me on today. Super stoked that you reached out to me. It's cool to see the 49er community coming together on YouTube. It's a whole lot of fun. Super stoked to talk about this matchup. Very quick little background about me. From San Francisco, been a 49ers fan for life, currently live in San Francisco. And yeah, I love it. Can't wait to delve into this matchup. And if you want to find me, just search Shifty's 49ers Talk. And again, John, appreciate you reaching out, and it's awesome to collaborate, man.
And that is something you guys just heard. He's also from where John Jay is from, San Francisco, California. So we got two San Franciscans hanging out here, which is really great. Shows you the faithful. We still have faithful here in the city. So thanks very much, man. And I want to say hello to my boy Kimbo, who's always in the house. How are you doing? He says, hi, let's go 49er fans for life. Thank you very much, Kimbo. And feel free to leave questions and comments. This is also your show. Do not forget, this is a community channel. I want to get also all the input of the 49er faithful. So thank you very much. Thank you very much for that. So, and of course, my boy right here, David, is in the house. He says, it's Niners all day. My favorite catchphrase. That's why it's right there in part of my logo. It's Niners all day. Even when we're not playing, there's always 49er news. Niner Empire going to take over AT&T Stadium. Thank you very much, David. And this guy, David, he's a huge follower of mine. David, go check out his channel. Support him as well. Help him grow. All right, so let's talk about some 49ers football. And I wanted to get your thoughts on this game. You know, everyone has their own thoughts on this game. When it comes to the 49ers, you know, I have so much to talk about. But what are your thoughts on this game? You know, what do you expect? You know, just give me your overall thoughts on this wild card matchup.
Well, it's a really close matchup. You know, it's one of those things where a lot of times going into a game, I'll think of a prediction that I might make. And this one, it's so back and forth. I could see this game going in so many different directions. I think that the Niners really do have to defend the Cowboys similar to what they did against the Rams. You know, the Cowboys have those two big weapons in Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, just like the Rams have Cooper Kupp and Odell Beckham, and Prescott and Stafford both have big arms and they love throwing it deep. So I think it's going to be a close matchup. Ultimately, I think what the Niners need to do, just, you know, play their game, run the ball effectively, get those positive yards, first down, keep the ball, control the clock, really limit Dallas's opportunities on offense. And just, you know, control the clock, control the pace of the game, be physical, bully them, and hopefully come away with the W. It's it's going to be a close one. It really just, even though I was very young for it, just kind of takes me back to those classic matchups of the playoffs in the 90s, Montana against the Cowboys, or Young against the Cowboys. So it's going to be a good one. I really hope to see the Niner faithful show out in Dallas, in Jerry's world, and to see that sea of red. That would be awesome. It's going to be a close game, though.
I want to say hello to my boy Damian Lee. This guy's been following me for many, many months. I always love what he has to say. He says, "In the red and gold, I trust." I've been a Niner fan since 1979. Yeah, I have a lot of OG 49er fans. It's so great that I've created this wonderful community. And I love all my fans. They're really good people. They're real diehard 49er fans. So my thoughts, just like yesterday when I was talking to my boy Niner Sickness, is that when it comes to this rivalry is a rivalry that's going on much longer than many people think. People think it was only a few, times in the 80s and only in the 90s, but I have a lot of young fans who are less than like 24 years old. And one of the things that I remember in the 90s when I was very, very young, even though I saw very little of the rivalry, the Cowboys and the Niners, even when they played in the regular season, it was very ferocious. They did not like one another. And even Jerry Rice, even though he and Michael Irvin, are now friends, they still have that a chip on their shoulders that, they will talk about. And even it's been many, many years, but Deion Sanders, when he was with the Cowboys, he would still give Jerry Rice a hard time. So you see that rivalry. Then you go in the 80s, when the Cowboys, were starting to decline, they were still, competitive. But in the 70s, a lot of people forget in the 70s that the Niners were pretty good in the 70s, early in the 70s, like for like a 4 or 5 year period. And then they started to decline, and they made it to like 1 or 2 NFC championship games against the Cowboys. So it really shows you why this rivalry is really special. No rivalry extends throughout the decades. And even in the 2000s and in the late 2000s, early 2000s, even when the teams were not very competitive, you saw the toughness that these two teams bring in. And as you mentioned, the Cowboys are like the Rams. They're high in momentum. They feel like they're going to beat us. And it's going to come down to how we execute our offense, how we move the ball down the field. So that's my thoughts about this game. Do you have any other thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I think because I did a preview video for this game, I put it up this morning. But one of the things, kind of like doing a little bit of research into the matchup and just into research into the Cowboys, is that they are so, like, the amount of interceptions they had this year. They were number 1 in the NFL for interceptions on defense. Of course, Trayvon Diggs, the All-Pro, had maybe 11 or 12 of them. But they really feed off the big play. So they a lot of times, whether it's on defense getting those big interceptions, on offense throwing it deep to like CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper, that's their MO, I think. So if the Niners can play, because they played the deep ball pretty darn well against the Rams. Like, both of our interceptions against the Rams came off of deep passes when Mosley got his, and then of course Ambry Thomas in overtime. So if the Niners can keep that up, if the safeties, Ward, Tart, if they can play well, if Ambry Thomas can keep just improving, I'd like to think that he'll have a whole bunch of confidence going into this matchup after having a big game against the Rams. If we can do that, if we can limit those big plays, let the guys on the D-line feed, get Bosa, Bosa's going to draw a bunch of attention. So allow guys like maybe like Armstead, who was just a wrecking ball on Sunday against the Rams, Arden Key, Jordan Willis, Samson Ebukam. If those guys can really step up and beat their one-on-one matchups, I think we can do pretty darn good at limiting the Cowboys offense. Against the run, I have a lot of faith in our run defense. DJ Jones, a guy who's probably going to get paid a ridiculous amount of money, or who deserves to, at least in the offseason. He's been amazing. Like, the amount of times, even against the Rams, where they would hand it off and bam, Jones was right there. So I think if the Niners really just have to play their game, it's awesome to get some key players back. It seems like I believe Al Shire is going to play. Of course, Dre Greenlaw got some run in last Sunday, and Fred Warner. So I think like we're the healthiest that we've been basically all year long. So I think hopefully things are coming together at the right time. But ultimately, yeah, when it comes to this matchup, I think we just have to limit their big plays, whether it's on offense with the deep passes or whether it's, interceptions when we're on offense. Jimmy is very like he can be hit or miss. Hopefully we get good Jimmy on Sunday. He kind of can be due for a couple of bad passes a game. We know that. Hopefully they won't hurt us too much. And if we can stick with our offense, run the ball effectively, and then have those like key pickups on third downs, then I really do like our chances in this one.
Yeah, one thing, that you also pointed out about, our overall team, on the defense side, like Nick Bosa, I've said on my channel, he played at a level of a defensive player of the year coming off a serious injury. Fred Warner, in the first half of the year, he was very inconsistent for whatever the reason, but then he got back to that Fred Warner that we all knew. DJ Jones has been a player who has been an Iron Man. He's basically been playing, doing great stuff on the defensive line. Arden Key, I'm a huge fan of Arden Key. He's only a part-time starter. He switches with Eric Armstead. Eric Armstead had probably his best sack season since the 2019 season. There's still a lot of question marks that I have for him, but he's been playing pretty good. And of course, Ambry Thomas, in the last 5-6 games, he stepped up. He's playing really good. So on the defense side of the ball, we have a lot of capable players to match up against their offense. And on the offensive side of the ball, you talk about Jimmy Garoppolo. As long as Jimmy Garoppolo uses the playmakers that he has, and basically not try to do too much. Like, I do not want him to throw any type of interception because it's going to be very different than a regular season game or fumbles the football. As long as he plays turnover-free football, manages the game, the offense is going to be putting points on the board. So that's my thoughts on the outlook of the game. So that is –
Yeah. I think with Jimmy, he just, one of the things that I just never understood about Garoppolo is I don't know if I've ever really seen him just throw the ball away, like just throw it out of bounds. Like I respect the fact that he'll always try and make a play happen, but then sometimes you'll have plays like when I think about the game at Tennessee when he threw the interception trying to hit Kittle in the end zone. Like Kittle was not open. He didn't have anything. And we could have, if what Jimmy should have done is just throw the ball through the back of the end zone and live to fight another down. So, I guess that's kind of like what you get with Garoppolo. You get the good and the bad. But that's something that's just kind of always a little bit frustrated me with Garoppolo because I think that we could be a lot better if there's times where he's like, you know what, the play isn't there. Let's just toss it out of bounds. But if he plays smart football, if our weapons can get open, then I do like our chances. I think that if we can really establish the run game, especially early on, I'm not sure like the numbers off the top of my head, but I know that Dallas has not been that great against the run, especially in recent weeks. So if we can just like get those runs up the middle, break some runs outside, get Elijah Mitchell, because Mitchell's just been a beast all season long. He's been awesome when he's been out there. So get the run game going, hit him on play action passes. I think we'll be in a good spot. And I'm just seeing the thing from Kimbo there. Yeah, it looks like Trent Williams is going to play, which is obviously huge for the Niners. Best left tackle in football. And congrats also to him and Deebo Samuel getting the first team All-Pro. Trent Williams is such a monster. So I think one of the X factors, though, and I'd be kind of curious to see your thoughts on this, is that with the Niners, I want to say that during this season on Pro Football Focus, they had Tom Compton as like a really highly rated right tackle. My opinion is that Dallas is going to attack him, whether it's Micah Parsons or DeMarcus Lawrence. So hopefully he can stand up to it. And the Niners, hopefully they don't have to put too much emphasis on having like Kittle stay in and block or Juszczyk stay in and block. But I think that's where they're going to attack big time because with Brunskill and Compton, I think are both solid players, but compared to the left side of the offensive line, it's probably our weaker point. So hopefully those guys can stand up.
Yeah, I wanted to read a few of these comments. Damian Lee says, if we score first, then play smash mouth football. The game is ours. And Damian Lee also says this game will be like the Niners Saints playoff game a couple of years ago. Thank you, Damian Lee. Thank you, Damian Lee. All right, so let's move on.
True.
Let's move on and let's talk about the key players on both sides of the ball. Of course, I think we know some key players, but let me get your key 49er players and let's look at some of the key players on the Cowboy side of the ball.
Cool. I think and this is something I'd mentioned in my preview video that I put up, but it's very easy to be like, oh, Jimmy, oh, Debo or Kittle on offense, because those are like the obvious choices. But I really do think it'll come down to my key player. I'm going to say it's actually Kyle Juszczyk. He's such a key guy in terms of like blocking to get the running game going. Also pass blocking. I think if the right side of the line struggles a little bit, that they'll have to keep him in to help them out. And then I'd like to see us, with in the passing game. We've had a couple of opportunities this season. Again, if we look at that Tennessee game where Juszczyk was wide open and Garoppolo just missed him. But if we can get him involved there, it will be, I think he is the key guy, to get the offense really going. If we're scoring points, I do like our chance to come away with this. If we can put up like 28 points, I really like our chance. So to me, the key guy, Juszczyk, he's just that X factor that I think the Niners need to have a good game. With the Cowboys is a tricky one. I'm going to, this one kind of like contrary to what I was saying and picking an obvious player, but I think Micah Parsons, he is a linebacker, rookie linebacker. I think he was maybe first team All-Pro as well, which is insane as a rookie to do. But he does so much for them. He rushes the passer really well in coverage. It'll be interesting, because we know how good George Kittle is, like all 49er fans know. So it'll be interesting to see if they're like, hey, let's put Micah Parsons on Kittle, or will they try and rush him a little bit more? And that maybe frees up Kittle for some opportunities. And yeah, I don't know. Those are my two guys. But what about you, John? Who are your key players?
My key players for the 49ers always starts off in the trenches on the defensive side of the ball, Nick Bosa. And the reason why I always go with Nick Bosa is because he sets the tempo on how the rest of the D-line plays. And a lot of people forget, how important Nick Bosa is to that defensive line. Earlier in the year, he didn't get a lot of help because there was a lot of injuries, players moving around. So that's always very important for the 49ers. It's going to come down to how Nick Bosa basically gets the attention and double teams and holds, which allows other players on the defensive line to really help out. If Azeez Al-Shaair is playing, I know Dre Greenlaw is playing. So if our linebacking core is all there, those are going to be some very important pieces because they are also an extension to the pass game and the run game. So it's really, really helpful to have all three of them back this season. On the offensive side of the ball, you mentioned Kyle Juszczyk is very important. He's very, very important. He's so important to the run game. He helps Deebo Samuel. And without Kyle Juszczyk, Deebo Samuel does not get those big yards. But I will always say the most important player on offense is George Kittle. George Kittle is an extension of the pass game, the run game, and the block game. So when you have a triple threat who can really be used in many different types of formation, those are, again, back in the trenches. So it's very, very helpful. On the Cowboys, it's going to determine on how Dak Prescott's going to play. I said this yesterday with Niner Sickness that if Dak Prescott has to throw the ball 40-plus times, what does that mean? They are trailing. So if we basically make them one-dimensional and throw the ball a lot, then that's going to be one important factor. So he's a very important key to how they manage the offense. So they don't want him to throw the ball a lot. On the defensive side, I want to really know about Trayvon Diggs because many Cowboys fans say he has a lot of interceptions, but he's horrible at coverage. So that's another key player I want to see. So those are my players who I think are going to be very key to this 49ers and Cowboys game.
Yeah, I mean, those are some really good points. And, Nick Bosa, as you said, he can change the tide of a game just like that. Whether it's he makes a big play himself, getting like a big sack or a fumble, or else if he is being dominant, then that the offense will have to adjust and put so much focus on him that it will allow, guys like Arden Key and Jordan Willis and Ebukam to get after the quarterback and to have a little bit easier matchups. Yeah, Bosa can just like completely change an offense's game plan. So he's just ridiculous. It's really a shame that he was outvoted by Max Crosby of the Raiders in the All-Pro voting. I could rant about that, but I'm not going to. But yeah, if I had to look at the Niners defense, maybe the X factor is, Bosa is like a big one. I think someone that you'd mentioned a little bit too. I think Dre Greenlaw. I think he's going to be a big X factor because the Cowboys do, like Dalton Schultz, they do like throwing to their tight ends as well. And with Michael Gallup, their number 3 receiver, him being out for the rest of the year with an injury, I think they're going to target their tight ends a lot. So hopefully Greenlaw, he brings a lot of like intensity. You could see that intensity that he had against the Rams on Sunday, but he's someone who can be really, really good in coverage and also effective. I think he had a sack, or he forced a quick pass out of Stafford on Sunday against the Rams. So if he plays that intensity, makes some plays, I would like Dre Greenlaw to maybe be someone who has that game altering play. I think we remember week 1 against Detroit when he had that pick 6 that led to the touchdown. Unfortunately, it also led to his injury, which put him out for a lot of the year. But I'd like for him to come out and have a big game, maybe kind of knocked off a little bit of the rust against the Rams. But the one thing that was a little bit interesting too, when I was doing some research into this, is that offensively, the Cowboys are the most penalized team in the NFL. So I don't know whether it's like they get a ton of like holding calls or false starts or what have you. I think a big key in terms of not a player necessarily, but for the Niners is put them in bad situations, and we have to be able to get off the field when it's 3rd and long. I feel like that's been our Achilles heel on defense. So many times it's 3rd and 10 or even longer, and the opposing team just somehow manages to pick up a first down. So if we can put Dallas in bad situations, make Prescott have to make some difficult throws, and or even force him into some sacks, force him into some mistakes, then that would be huge. Like just having those game-altering plays.
Mm-hmm. I want to say hello to Kelt's Chronicle. I'm trying to make sure I'm pronouncing his name correctly. Welcome, man. How are you doing? He says, it's a war. 48 hours out. Faithful rise up. Ye. Shout out to Kelt's Chronicle. I hope I said it like Melts, but I put with the K. That's how he told me how to pronounce it. So I hope I said that correctly. All right. Also, feel free to ask your questions now. We have a few more topics, but give us your questions so you can. If you have any questions for our guests, also ask questions for our guests as well. So let's move on. I wanted to go with this one first because the media has been talking about, Dan Quinn and Kyle Shanahan, that they know each other, and because Kyle was his assistant when they were in Atlanta. We all know what happened in Atlanta. They lost the Super Bowl. So, but when you look at these two coaches, like who has the edge? Who really does have the edge? Is it Dan Quinn on the defense side of the ball, or is it Kyle Shanahan, who actually is a really good offensive mind person? So I want to get your thoughts on this question because I've been getting this question asked to me a lot.
It's a good question. To be honest, it's for me, it's a little bit hard to answer because I'll be honest, I haven't watched too many full Dallas Cowboy games. Overall, I think that initially we might find it a little bit difficult moving the ball. I mean, if we can run the ball, I think we're golden. But I think what Shanahan's going to do, and we all know that Shanahan has maybe 15 to 20 plays scripted. One of the things that I'm going to try not to do is try not to panic if we're not scoring points initially, because one of the things that you see Shanahan do is he'll call plays to see how the defense reacts to it. And then based off of that, later on in the game, you can call plays that'll counter everything that they've done. So It could be I think for the Niners, it might be a little bit of a low scoring first half just because Quinn has that familiarity with Shanahan's offense. Of course, when they were in Atlanta together in training camp and practices, they'd be familiar with like the schemes and what have you. But I think that look later on in the game, I think we could really start moving the ball. And I think that Shanahan will find things to exploit. From watching different videos on like YouTube and from different channels, it seems like the Cowboys, their MO is like play fast, and look to make the big play. So hopefully going into this and into the preparation that Shanahan's going to be ready to exploit that, whether it's lining up in a formation that like 99 times out of 100 we run the ball, but then you do a play action, maybe throw a deep pass that they're not expecting. But it's going to be it's a chess match for sure, and so I'm really excited to see who comes out on top. I think that early on I think it might be a little bit tough sledding, but I'd like to see how Shanahan counters what Quinn's going to do.
All right, I want to say hello to SG Sports Talk. Hi, John J. He says, "Go Niners, beat Dallas," and thoughts on Ambry Thomas. What are your thoughts on Ambry Thomas?
I think that, look, he's come a long way. So if we think about Ambry Thomas going into the 2020 season, still at Michigan, there were talks of him. He maybe goes in the first round, but then he sat out that year because of COVID, if I'm not mistaken. So then there wasn't as much tape on him. He falls to the third round, which is where we pick him up. He didn't really get a lot of game time early on, whether that was, I'm not sure if it was injury or just maybe performance, but he's really stepped up in recent weeks. Now, the interesting thing with Thomas is, unfortunately, he's on a lot of highlight reels for the maybe not the best reasons when you look at some of the games because he's getting beat. But what I saw a lot of times is he was right there in the position. He was like right beside the receiver, and the receiver just made a great play, or maybe just through him still learning how to play the NFL game that he maybe didn't turn his head around or what have you. But even in the Rams game, look, I want to say there was the touchdown, the second touchdown to Tyler Higbee was on Ambry Thomas, but his coverage was amazing. It was just a great pass and a great catch. So I think his coverage is really good. It was great to see that he maybe made some adjustments even within the game to have that huge interception in overtime. He played that perfectly. And that's not an easy thing to do. You think about it. This is overtime. This is, if we lose, we're out of the playoffs. He's one-on-one with a receiver like Odell Beckham, who a lot of people, even though his last couple of years haven't been as good, he's still a very highly regarded wide receiver. It was one-on-one coverage, and he was the one who made the perfect play, read the quarterback, made the big play. So I think the future is really bright with Ambry Thomas. I wouldn't be surprised if I was a Cowboys fan or a fan of any other team and they're like, "Oh, Ambry Thomas, isn't that guy who gets beat all the time? He's a rookie, what are we?" But I think as Niner fans watching like him play a lot, you can see that he's gotten a lot better since the preseason.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. SG says, "I don't think Dan Quinn has the edge in this game." Now, one thing that I wanted to pull up this stat that I'm looking at right now is that last year, everyone talked about, oh, if Dak Prescott didn't get hurt, this and that, that they could have won more games. But their defense last year, first of all, in the 2019 season, entering the 2020 offseason, they were paying a lot of players. Jerry Jones was throwing money at that defense. So there was a lot of expectations. Now, I think Mike Nolan was the defensive coordinator, which was a bad idea. And that made a lot of sense. So Dan Quinn comes over here. So he's really, really brought a more physical aspect because last year they were 28th in the league in overall defense. So that's, the thing. Now, the question is that I want to see this defense because like the media and all the numbers don't really tell the full story. But I do believe that Kyle Shanahan has the edge because D'Amico Ryans, he has been getting better and better, since after week 8, week 9, after that horrible loss against the Cardinals. And basically that defense is getting really better and better. So on the defensive side, I'm not worried because we have a really good in D'Amico Ryans when it comes to his coaching style. I think Kyle Shanahan is going to do a lot of trickerations. There's going to be a lot of motions, a lot of movement, a lot of jet sweeps. So I'm going to give Kyle Shanahan until Dan Quinn can prove to me. Now, another fact is that their division was one of the worst. They're the worst division. So they swept their competition. The Washington football team, I think they finished 6-11. The Eagles were probably their only tough competition. They were like 9-8, so close to a 500 team. And the Giants were 4-13, so not really good competition. And then outside of their division, they were barely 500. So it really shows you that when you're playing, those teams. So I want to see what Dan Quinn's going to do with an offense that's way more consistent when it comes to in this game. So that's my thoughts on this question. Yeah,
it's interesting because I don't think the Cowboys are not many teams have seen a team like the 49ers this year. Like a lot of teams will say the right thing and be like, oh yeah, we want to run the ball, blah, blah, blah. But the Niners really want to run the ball, and they will keep just hitting you in the mouth, and getting a guy like what was mentioned in the chat as well is getting a guy like Trent Williams, who's just so physical. I don't think any of these Cowboy players have seen a guy just like Trent Williams. Like, let's say if they have Micah Parsons lined up over Trent Williams, it's going to be a welcome to the NFL rookie, kind of moment for him. But I think the Niners are just so physical. Like you see, even though George Kittle is like arguably the best tight end in the game in terms of like catching the ball and yards after the catch, he legitimately loves to block. Juszczyk, the same thing, loves to block, loves to be physical. So they're going to have their hands full with the Niners run game. I don't know if the Cowboys have seen a team like this one all year long. So, and as you said, their level of competition, like, yeah, they have 6 games, 2 against the football team, 2 against the Giants, 2 against the Eagles, whereas we're up against, the likes of the Cardinals and the Rams and all the time. So I think we're a bit more battle tested, and Cowboy fans will be like, oh, CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper, and that's kind of like their go-to on offense. And like, oh, Dak Prescott. And look, don't get me wrong, they're all like very good players. But the Niners have seen, Joe Burrow with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd, and they just saw the Rams again with Stafford, who has the big arm with Beckham and Kupp, and even against the Seahawks had a down year, but like you play them twice and they have DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. So the Niners have seen wide receiver duos as good as, if not better than the Cowboys all year long. So it's not anything new. Like this isn't new for the Niners. Whereas going into this game, the Cowboys are going to be like, I think after maybe the first couple of drives, they're going to, whether the Niners score points or not, that defense is going to be like, holy smokes, like we're in for a game. This is going to be a physical one. Like we're going to be bruised after this one.
I want to give a shout out and I hope you check him out. Niner Minded. He has a small YouTube channel, just like you, man. He has like over, I don't know how many, I think over 300. I don't know the exact number. He's a really good dude. I've had him on my show. He knows his stuff. He's also from the Bay Area. He's, he grew up in the Bay Area.
Nice.
So check him out, man. Niner Minded. He says, "What's up, John?" He says, "What's up, John Jay?" He says, "Go Niners, beat Dallas." I think we all can agree with that. And he also says, "Hopefully, Trent Williams tosses Parsons around like a rag." So that's a good one. Yeah, it's a good one. So thank you, Niner Minded. So yeah, check him out. He has some really good content. He has really great guests on his show. So yeah. So now it's time for you guys to ask questions. Feel free to ask questions. While you guys are putting in your questions, I wanted to ask this question for you. What are the key matchups when you look at this game? So when the Niners offense and they're playing against the Niners defense, what are going to be the important matchups? And then vice versa, when the Cowboys offense and the Niners defense, what are the key matchups that I think we should be very, what are the matchups? What are the matchups?
For me, when it comes to the Niners offense against the Cowboys defense, the number one thing I'm looking at is going to be, I mentioned it a little bit earlier, is I'm going to see, I'm looking at Tom Compton at right tackle. And because I think they're going to send Micah Parsons and they're going to try and disrupt the 49ers pass game with Micah Parsons over the right tackle. And I believe that he tends to rush. Micah Parsons and Randy Gregory, they typically rush over the right tackle. And although Tom Compton, he's been quite highly rated by Pro Football Focus. This will be a huge test for him this Sunday. So that's like my key matchup. Look, if Tom Compton can hold up, give Jimmy some time, to let guys get open down the field, I really like our chances, but that'll be one that I'm going to be super interested in. And then when we look at the Niners defense against the Cowboys offense, it's going to be whoever Ambry Thomas is covering, because I think at this point, even though Emmanuel Mosley is not a household name by any means to the general NFL community, I think NFL teams, like NFL actual teams, know that he's really good. So I think they're going to be trying to target the rookie in Ambry Thomas. So whether he's up against CeeDee Lamb, whether it's Amari Cooper, whether it's some of their other receivers, just seeing how he holds up in coverage, and hopefully he can limit those big plays. Those are the matchups I'll be looking at big time. What about you?
Basically, my key matchups basically is going to be Trent Williams and, Micah Parsons, as you said. And I want to see, this young rookie who, everyone's been saying that he's going to, and I just listened to a little 30 seconds of his interview that he had, not an interview, his press conference with the Dallas media, and he was opening his mouth, saying a lot of things. I think, in my opinion, he should just been like, it better be, I just want to showcase on the field, et cetera, et cetera. No, he said that he's going to be bullying Trent Williams. He's going to be bullying, basically, like, he basically started to, be a little bit like a cowboy, like a Dallas Cowboy player. But I want to see that matchup. Trent Williams is coming back. He missed a game. I don't think it was very severe, but that's going to be a very important matchup. I want to see the right side, how they do with their pass rush, because their right side still worries me a little bit. And that's going to be, the area when it comes to the pass game, when Jimmy has to drop back and survey the field, can he get protected? Because I know Trent Williams is going to do his job. On the other side, I want to see our linebacking core, how they match up with the slot receivers, with the short stuff, things like that. I want to see how Fred Warner and the linebackers match up with the receivers going down the field, how they match up against the run game, if the running backs get through. So those are, as I mentioned, going back to the trenches, those are going to be very important matchups. And if everything goes well, if Trent Williams does not allow, any type of break, in anything to go by him, any sacks, that's going to be a positive for us. If our right side plays really, really good, and I mean really, really good, and protects Jimmy Garoppolo, that'll be really, really good. And we'll see how the linebackers, as I mentioned, they're also an extension of the pass game, an extension of the run game. So those are the key matchups for me. Any other key matchups for you?
It's a good one. If I had to say, I'll be curious to see how the Cowboys line up defensively in terms of, will they keep Trayvon Diggs on Debo? Will they have him follow Debo around and try and limit what Debo does in the pass game? Or will they do just kind of have Trayvon Diggs on one side of the field? Whoever it is, I'd be really curious to see how, whether it's like through schemes, what the Niners do to offset Trayvon Diggs, because Trayvon Diggs is really hyper aggressive. So he always goes for that interception. There's a reason why, he has the most interceptions in the league, but I feel like he maybe has the most yards given up or the most touchdowns given up in the passing game. So I wouldn't be surprised, if we see, whether it's Ayuk or Debo, do a bunch of double moves to try and exploit Diggs's his aggressiveness and he just always wants to make the splash play. So I think that's going to be an interesting one for sure, because, we talk about the Niners run game. Of course, we always want to get guys like George Kittle involved. We want to get Debo involved in the run game too. But does Ayuk have a similar game as he did against the Rams, where he came up clutch, just over and over? whenever we needed a big play in that game against the Rams to get a drive going, to get momentum going in our way, it was always Ayuk. Ayuk was the one who made the big play and got us that momentum. So, I'll be curious to see if it's him against Diggs, like how that matchup works out in terms of like the schemes, what, Shanahan versus Quinn, and how they'll try and scheme players open and to put those guys in the best position to succeed. I do like the Shanahan, as you said. I think overall Shanahan probably does have a little bit of the edge over Dan Quinn, just because also the Niners were healthy. We are very, very healthy going into this game. The only person who is really missing from our starting team would be Mike McGlinchey, who's out for the year. But beyond that, we have every single player ready to go. So I like our chances a lot, and I think we're going to be able to exploit, especially the middle of that Dallas defense. I'm not too familiar with their interior defensive linemen. They're certainly not on the level of like an Aaron Donald, who we just played a matter of days ago. And then their linebackers, Micah Parsons, of course, is a top player, but Leighton Vander Esch, I think he's very hit or miss. So in terms of matchups, kind of like what you mentioned, the Niners linebackers on the Cowboys tight ends and slot receivers, I think it'll also be interesting to see like vice versa too, how their tight ends or how their linebackers match up against Kittle, match up against maybe Jawan Jennings. Jawan Jennings is another guy who could be a major X factor, because defenses have to think about Elijah Mitchell, Debo, Kittle, and then Ayuk as well as be kind of getting that name around him. But now Jawan Jennings has just exploded onto the scene. So the Niners are fully loaded, ready to go.
Yeah. David had a funny question. David says, how many times is Parsons going to get pancaked? Which is very funny. Shout out to David. He's a comedian in the chat, but that's something to think about. I want to say hello to Travis Burke. He is a Raider fan. He's all the way in the East Coast. So he's a Raider fan from the East Coast. Shout out to Travis. Nice. And Travis has been so generous to donate $2 to my channel. I appreciate this, Travis Burke. He's the most recent member of my membership. Once you get 1,000 subscribers, you get all these wonderful, nice, ways to, get monetized. And Travis Burke is so nice. He's a Raider fan, and I have NFL fans who hang out here all the time. And so I'm glad that Travis Burke, even though we root for different teams, Travis Burke, he's a really great supporter of this channel. Shout out to you, man. Good luck on your game. I think you guys are playing the Cincinnati Bengals. But he says Raiders, Bills, Bucks, Niners, Chiefs. So I think those are the teams he is rooting for. And he's not 100% sure on the Monday game. So those are his predictions. Of course, he's going to root for the Raiders. All right. David says, Supachar, I'm listening at work. I know Kittle and Trent are going to teach Parsons a lesson about talking. Oh, yes. Thank you very much, David. I appreciate that. 49er Reminded says, David, catch me at 10 tonight with Wayne Breezy. No problem, man. I'll check that out too, man. And shout out to 49er Reminded. Hope your channel gets, bigger and bigger, man. I love your stuff, man. I love your stuff. He says, sup, Travis. And Travis says, hey, Niner Minded, long time. Awesome. All right. So ask your questions. Ask your questions. While you guys are asking the questions, I actually have a question for my guest. And I want to get your thoughts on the performance. Like, of course, in the first half, Jimmy Garoppolo, excuse my language, but he was, garbage. I don't want to say a bad word, but, he was ASS. He was horrible. But one of the things that I want to ask you when you were watching the game, Jimmy Garoppolo's second half performance, I want to get your thoughts on his second half performance.
Wow. It was, well, that whole game kind of encapsulated Jimmy Garoppolo. I think there's the good and the bad. And even the second half, you could say, is just a microcosm of what Jimmy Garoppolo is all about. There's times where he gets into such a good rhythm where like the offense almost looks like unstoppable, where guys are getting open, guys are making plays after the catch, and he makes some excellent throws into really tight coverage, which is super impressive. But then you also get maybe the negative too, where when in the fourth quarter, I believe it was 17-17, there was maybe like 6 or 7 minutes left in the game, and he throws that interception, which gets bobbled up by Jalen Ramsey. And looking at that situation, it wasn't a situation where I think he needed to force that ball to Kittle. I think it was maybe second down. At the very least, what you want to do is look, if the pass isn't there, even if you take the sack, you're still in field goal range. But then you saw just some amazing plays. I mean, that pass with the less than a minute to go in the game, or a minute to go in the game in the fourth quarter, to Deebo Samuel, and he just pinpoint accuracy. Jalen Ramsey, you could see, just laid out with his hand to try and knock the ball down, and Deebo caught it and made a few guys miss. So I think that game just sums up Garoppolo. You get good, you get bad, and then hopefully the good will outweigh the bad and put your team in a position to succeed. But one thing which you can't argue with Garoppolo for the most part is that the dude is clutch. Like when I think about some of these games over the season where, like at Cincinnati, in overtime to go down, get the touchdown, win the game. At Tennessee, even though we lost that game, but with about, in the final few minutes of the game to drive down, score the touchdown, tie the game up. Obviously what we did against the Rams, and then even against the Seahawks. Now I know the game at the Seahawks, there's that, we drove all the way down. We were out there, I don't know, maybe either 3 or 4 yard line. Couple of plays didn't work out in the end in that game, unfortunately, but the dude he comes up big in like big moments. So, I really think that I feel at this point, and I know there's a lot of fans calling for Trey Lance. And look, I'll be honest, by just before that final drive of halftime, I was being like, hey, I think we maybe have to put Trey Lance in and just try something different. Now, Shanahan stuck to his guns and stuck with Jimmy Garoppolo, and obviously it ended up being the right decision. But Jimmy, he's a roller coaster. You just don't know what you're going to get. He's like a box of chocolates. You just never know. Like not only like every game, but like every drive. Will it be good, Jimmy? Will it be bad, Jimmy? So it was crazy, man, to watch that game. How about you? What were your thoughts on Garoppolo in that game?
So before I give you my thoughts, I wanted to say 49er Minded just subscribe to your YouTube channel, man.
Oh, so, 49er Minded. I really appreciate that, man. I appreciate the support. I'll do likewise today. I'll subscribe to yours and check out the content that you put out.
All right. And then, of course, Travis Berg, $4 today. Another super chat. Appreciate this, man. Travis Berg. I'm kind of weird why all the non-49er fans donate to my channel. And I'm not trying to be, I'm just a little bit confused why the non-49er fans really donate to my channel. Like, appreciate. And, of course, I get a lot of donations from 49er fans. But they are the most who always donate. Oh, and he says Jimmy G's chances against the Packers, Rams, and Cardinals. Let's see. That is a really good question that I do not have the answer to yet. But going back to
I was going to say very quickly, sorry to cut you off, but when it comes to Travis, to answer your question, I actually do like our chances. I like Jimmy's chances against everyone except the Cardinals game would be an iffy one just because we haven't had the most success against them. The Rams, obviously we beat them 6 times in a row. The Packers, I feel like we don't have their number for sure, but like I feel like we play the Packers really well. And we all know week 3, Sunday Night Football, we were 30-something seconds away from beating Green Bay. So I do like just the Cardinals for whatever reason. They maybe we just don't match up well against them or something. I know we're not the best team against mobile quarterbacks. Like Kyler Murray makes a lot of plays against us, but I like our chances against I would like our chance against the Packers or the Rams, but the Cardinals would be actually the team that would scare me of those 3 the most.
Yeah. Travis Berg also subbed to your channel as well.
Appreciate that, Travis.
And Las Vegas. It's still hard because, I live in the Bay Area, so it's hard. All right, so to the question that I asked you, and Jimmy Garoppolo, I like Greg Cosell, Howard Cosell's nephew, who's a part of NFL Films, and he said something that I wanted to get scratch my head a little bit. How when Jimmy Garoppolo in those clutch moments, basically in the final like 5 minutes of the fourth quarter, he starts to play so outstanding. And one thing that he noticed is that when Kyle scripts the plays, his quarterbacks do not look good, but as the game progresses, his quarterbacks look really good. Trey Lance, in his very first start looked horrible because Kyle scripted everything. But then in the second game, a lot of people, it was against the Houston Texans, but you saw very little script, how he allowed him to throw the football. Of course, the spectacular catch that you still have to give props to George Kittle, that catch only would have been made if Trey Lance, did not, if he didn't throw that ball, that play would not have happened. So Trey Lance just took a shot down and Kittle did his part. Great combination. Of course, Trey Lance, roll out. This is the thing that, pisses me off from Kyle. Why does he not do a lot of those rollouts? Put his quarterback a little bit safer from the pass rush, allow them to survey the field. I think you could do that a lot with Jimmy, hopefully, in this game. But you see when your quarterback play actions, fakes the run, curls. That's why it's called a bootleg, because it looks like you're booting, etc. You're curving. So then you see how when quarterbacks do that, they're able to get an extra 5 additional yards to get enough space from the pass rush and go down the field. And a lot of pocket passing, quarterbacks, proponents, or people forget you do need a quarterback that's mobile in the pocket, which is a difference. So if Jimmy Garoppolo, if our head coach lets him be off script early in the game as well, and not just monitor, the plays, I think Jimmy Garoppolo could look good. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm excusing, all of his things that he has done, but Greg Cosell, he's a really good dude, who actually studies the quarterback position. So when it comes to someone who evaluates quarterbacks in an unbiased way, Greg Cosell, and he's one of the guys who said that Trey Lance is going to be the best quarterback in this draft, and a lot of people mocked him. But when it comes to Greg Cosell, he has the film of every snap of Trey Lance and, of course, all the rookies, but he also has hundreds and hundreds of snaps of Jimmy Garoppolo. So when it comes to him, he knows what he's talking about. So that's my thoughts on that. Yep.
I have a quick question for you.
Yes.
My question is, do you think Jimmy Garoppolo is a 49er next season?
No. And the reason why I say no, now anything is possible, but I believe Jimmy's not going to be on the team next year for 3 reasons. The first is the obvious one. He has 1 year left on the contract. If you keep him, you cannot trade him. In the following, he'll be a free agent. So you want to get value for Jimmy Garoppolo. So that's, one of the reasons why. And Trey Lance, he's going to, have his growing pains and his issues. But the games that he's played, a lot of people say he needs reps. He has over 150 plays under center, shotgun, and whatever, even when he hands the ball off. So overall, when you look at, that situation, is that we're good at the quarterback. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that when it comes to Jimmy's, time with the 49ers, he's a pocket passing, quick release quarterback. What does that mean? He drops back, if he bootlegs, he gets that ball out there. So that's, his strong suit. He's a drop back, quick, spins, throws his weapons, etc. And it doesn't work in Kyle Shanahan's offense. It never has. That's why Kyle has had to write plays for him in the years that he's been here. So it's never been a good fit for him. And the third most important reason is that you do need a dynamic quarterback like an Aaron Rodgers, who people forget is mobile in the pocket, really good at the bootlegs. Josh Allen, Kyler Murray, even Lamar Jackson, who a lot of people don't like. You do need a quarterback who's able to stretch the plays with their legs avoid being sacked, allowing their wide receivers to be open. So that's the reason why he's not going to be here next year. Now, if I'm wrong, it is what it is, but he's not going to be here. Plain and simple. Plain and simple.
If I could do another, just a very quick follow-up. If you had to guess, where do you think Garoppolo gets traded to?
So I am just throwing this out. I know I'm going to be wrong. He's probably going to go to a random team. But if Aaron Rodgers is traded or retires, LaFleur has the same offense as Kyle Shanahan. So I would not be surprised if they try to reach out to the 49ers. Now, it doesn't mean that someone's telling me that Green Bay knows that Aaron Rodgers, maybe he might come back next year. But if he says, I'm retiring, I don't want to play football no more, I'm unhappy, or I want to go to another team, that is a really good situation for them because they have good playmakers there already. They have the right system, so he doesn't have to really do much. So that is a guess that I am saying. I could be wrong, but I won't be surprised if the New Orleans Saints, the Pittsburgh Steelers, who still have a team to compete now, probably the Washington football team, those are probably three options that – they're also looking at Jimmy Garoppolo. But if Jimmy wants to be successful, run and be just a person who participates, helping that team, it makes sense because of the system scheme. And that's how I look at stuff. When I look at players who are going to be traded, does they fit the scheme? But we'll see what happens. So that's just my little opinion about that question. Yeah.
True.
All right.
Good point.
All right. Niner minus. I don't see Jimmy coming back. No way they keep that contract. The Niners have a lot of holes to fill. And that's also another situation. $27.5 million added to that salary cap. Imagine what the Niners can do to bolster either their secondary or help their offensive line. But let's not focus on that right now. But that's something that's also something to think about. David says, I will be there, Bashar. And David says, I like Trey Lance for our future quarterback 100%. So I don't know if you guys have any questions, but I will ask one more question. Hopefully you guys have more questions. So I have a question for you. So this game is on Sunday. It's going to be like a 1:30 West Coast time, 4:30 Eastern time. It'll be a 3:30, Dallas time. So my question to you is, do you think that the 49ers defense will be able to contain, and I'm not saying they're going to stop that, but are able to manage that offense, slow them down, put minimum points on the board? So I want to get your thoughts if we have a really good matchup that will give Dallas offense a tough time.
I think we'll definitely give them a tough time. I mean, as you had said, we're not going to shut them out or anything like that. But I do think Dallas will get their points. I think Dallas's offense ultimately puts up maybe 20 to 24 points in this game. I think what the Niners just need to do is, if we're running the ball well, if we're controlling the clock, a perfect scenario would be kind of what we did against the Rams on Sunday Night Football at Levi's Stadium, where we just had drives that were like 8-9 minutes long. So you limit what Dallas's offense can do. So that would be perfect scenario. I don't think it's necessarily going to play out that way, but I think we limit them to a certain degree. They will have some splash plays. And the big thing is that with the 49ers is, and what's really positive too about going through what they went through against the Rams is look, they were down 17-0 with no momentum, basically nothing. And we came back and won. So this team, whether it's the defense is not going to crumble. They're not going to freak out or panic or anything. I think they're going to play smart football, keep their composure. Overall, ultimately, Dallas is going to score some points because, Prescott loves to air it out. And they do have a lot of talent at wide receiver. But I think we can make some plays. Now, it all comes down to me is like turnovers, because Dallas is, I don't know if they're number one in turnover differential, but they do force the most turnovers in the NFL, especially interceptions. So whereas the Niners are kind of near the bottom of the league in terms of interceptions. So if we can get in Dak Prescott's head, force some pressure, some bad plays, I think we can. But with all that being said, like, I think if the Niners can get off the field on third down and long, because this defense does such a good job on first down, on second down, but then it gets to that 3rd and 10, and the Rams picked it up a bunch of times early on in the game, which extended their drives and gave them a bunch of points, is that if we can get off the field on 3rd and long, I think we have a really good chance in this one. And yeah, I'd say Dallas scores anywhere from 20 to 24. If Prescott, like you mentioned, if Prescott ends up throwing the ball 40 times plus, that means that they're playing from behind. And I don't think that's not their game. That's not, that they don't want to be doing that. Because another thing very quickly that I looked at when I was looking into the preview for this game was the 3 games that Prescott had his most passing yards. They lost 2 of those 3 games. So I think it was against Tampa Bay week 1. He had like 400 and something yards, but they lost. There was a couple of other games it's slipping my mind right now that he had threw for a whole bunch of yards, but they were losing. So that's not a good sign for Dallas if Prescott has to air it out all the time. And it's going to lead to big plays for us. Eventually Bosa is going to get home. The other guys in the D-line will get home. Maybe Fred Warner or Greenlaw have a big splash play and interception or something to that effect. But to kind of sum up and my answer to your question would be, we just gotta. I think our defense will do a solid job, but Cowboys will score their points.
Yeah. So, yeah, the way I look at it, this way. Number one, their division, their division was horrible this year. They were, when you look at their overall record, less than 20 victories. The rest of their team, they had over 30 losses. So, very under 500, no competition. Niners, we lost 4 horrible games against our division in a very bad way. So imagine if we were able to go, 500 with the other 2, we would have been in a divisional. We might have been hosting a divisional game this week, but that's a reminder. The ball sometimes goes over there. So the Niners have had it very, very tough. When I look at Ambry Thomas and Emmanuel Mosley, who are going to be the starting corners, those corners are going to match up really well. And we're going to see, how their wide receivers are going to do really well. Our linebacking core is there. Our defensive line has been playing much better. I remember halfway through the season, we were at the bottom. We were 27th in the run game. Now we're in the top 10 against run teams. So overall, I do think that the Cowboys are going to score, but they're not going to do what they did against Philadelphia week 18. So they're not going to score that many points. Now, I don't make predictions, but I will say the game, I think both teams are going to be under the 30-point mark. That's how tough it's going to be. I hope I'm right. Hopefully it doesn't, bite us, because every time I do a prediction, it doesn't come out, the way I wish. But I do think that it's going to be a tough game, and Zeke is going to have a tough game. I think even Pollard is going to have a tough game, so they're going to be one-dimensional. I think they're going to rack you up the yards, but I don't think they're going to have, like 7 touchdowns or whatever they had against the Eagles. So that's my thoughts on that question. All right, so before I go, I wanted to let you guys know right here at the bottom, the ticker, subscribe to Shifty's Sports Talk. He has 240 plus subscribers. He's a 49ers content creator. And those who are just joining in, he's also from San Francisco, the Bay Area. So I got to meet someone from San Francisco. Maybe one day in the future, I'll bump into this guy. So I'm really great, as I mentioned. And of course, Niner Minded, Travis Burke has already subscribed to you. So everybody else, subscribe to your channel. So before we end the episode, let them know one last time where they can find you. If you have any social media, let them know where they can follow you.
Cool. Yeah. So if you search either Shifty's Sports Talk or Shifty's 49ers Talk, either one, I should show up on, this is on YouTube. So search for me there. And yep, I really appreciate you, John, putting, shouting out the channel and everything. Just really trying to grow my channel and be a part of the 49er YouTube community. And then social media, I don't really have too much. I do have a Twitter, but I really don't use it that often. So I'd say the best spot to find me and to reach out to me is going to be like leave comments and what have you on YouTube. And yeah, I try to upload maybe a couple of videos a week or so. I like to typically do like a preview of the upcoming game and a breakdown of the previous game. And then I'll do some other videos, maybe some like opinion videos, things like that. But yeah, I appreciate everyone in the chat who has subscribed and who's going to check out the channel. I will do likewise to you guys. And love, my favorite thing to do in my free time is watching 49ers football and watching 49ers content. So
Cool. I wanted to read this comment from Marcus Scott 49. He says Cowboys are soft, the most overrated team in the playoffs. I have to agree because outside of their conference, they were 6-5, so they were almost a 500 team. So that's just a little reminder. They also lost to the Broncos. And that team was not in the playoffs. So this team, and they've played like Atlanta. We played Atlanta. Both of us blew them out. So we've played, some of the teams that they've played, and we've done, I think, much better than they did overall. Plus, also, we were hurt. We had a lot of inconsistencies overall, but that's 100% facts. Hopefully it's true. Hopefully the media is not, hopefully we're not being overhyped, because the last time we were overhyped was at that Tennessee game, and we saw that outcome, even though we lost by a field goal. So that's just a reminder. I don't take the media overall. But with that said, everybody, I want to say thank you very much. Of course, Travis Berg with the super chats. Great guy. But with that said, everybody, this guy right here is John Jay. The guy over here, Shifty Sports Talk. Check him out. He talks 49ers football just like John Jay. But with that said, everybody, I'm John Jay. This is the 49ers Ultimate Report. You guys have a rest of the rest of the day wherever you are. And go 49ers. All right.